Hello, hello, and welcome back to DFT's Dungeon. My name is Daniel Terry, and today I wanted to talk about Christian metal. Big surprise, right?
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
No, in all seriousness, I was watching a video recently from one of my favorite YouTube channels called Waiting for Nintendo, and they released a video called Seven Levels of Nintendo Game. And I thought it was like a tier list. It seemed like a tier list, but it seems like some kind of new tier list. And it's based off of a couple of other videos. One was about the 7 levels of rappers. I think that was the first one. And then one was the 7 levels of fantasy novel. And obviously their video, the 7 levels of Nintendo game. And I thought, you know what, Dan? You're a trendy guy. Why don't you talk about the thing that you know something about, which of course is Christian metal? So I'm going to give you guys what I would consider to be the 7 levels of Christian metal. And before we get into all of that, I just want to say I made this video for fun. Please do not take it too seriously. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Level 1, the Facebook auto reply. If you've been a part of the Christian metal scene in the last 10 years, you've probably joined a Christian metal Facebook group. And your first post was probably something along the lines of, hey, guys, I'm really into Slipknot or Metallica or Shadows Fall or all of these other bands, right? I would like to hear some Christian metal bands that are similar to those bands that I should check out. And for whatever reason, people always feel compelled to recommend the following bands: Demon Hunter, Skillet, Striper,
We are the questions, many concerns.
Thousand Foot Crutch,
I can be stupid, but not outrageous. I can be sickness, but not contagious.
and Seventh Day Slumber. It does not matter what band you put in saying that you listened to and liked. Those are the bands that are going to be recommended to you first. I can't figure out why, but that's just the way that it is. I think all of those bands are perfectly listenable in their own right, but it's just strange to me that those are the bands that most people in the scene would consider to be your gateway entry bands into Christian metal. And it's weird because I wouldn't consider bands like Skillet and Thousand Foot Crutch to be metal, and even Seventh Day Slumber, well, they didn't used to be heavy, but their last couple of releases have been extremely heavy. Those guys are kind of a weird case, but by and large, these are the bands that would be considered your entry level base Christian metal bands to get into. Level 2, wait, are these guys even Christian anymore? Now, this level is specifically for bands that maybe started out as Christian bands and decided not to be anymore, or for whatever reason, they have done or said something that upset the Christian metal fan base, and now they're not largely considered to be Christian. And of course, I'm talking about bands like Fit for a King, The Devil Wears Prada, Gideon,
Cause I've been swallowing fire. Save my
Under Oath, and Zayo. And most of the evidence that people use to accuse these bands of not being Christian are because of hearsay from a show they saw, or this guy said something weird on stage, or in a deleted tweet, they said that they weren't a Christian band. And sometimes this is legitimate, and sometimes the band doesn't want to be considered a Christian band. But again, kind of like the last level that I mentioned, these are the kind of bands that if you mention them in a comment section in a Christian metal group, you can be guaranteed to get tons and tons of interaction and comments and debates until the cows come home as to whether or not this band actually fits everyone's unique special definition of what a Christian band is. Level 3, we are gonna prove it to you. These are the bands that you see posted on Kingdom Core's Instagram page all the time. These are newer, more musically relevant Christian metalcore bands that have sort of kept their messages up front as possible so that there can be absolutely no debate as to where that band stands spiritually. And this is usually the best place to look for newer bands that you might actually have a chance of seeing in your hometown sometime this year. And this would include bands like Cultist, Bloodlines,
Our flesh and blood is the life form of sin. I've been a slave to the scripts of my mind.
Confession of a Traitor,
Religion wants true to me. Letting go of
No Treaty,
I've been down this road before. All that ever we all.
and Reformed. And maybe some older examples of this category would be bands like For Today, Impending Doom, or Sleeping Giant.
I can still feel the rain. Thinking back over these last years.
These are the types of bands that people like to use as examples to fight against the previous level of Christian bands that I just talked about. There's no question about where these bands stand spiritually, and they want you to know that above all else. Level 4, what are you guys doing here? Now, this is for Christian bands that are in genres that you wouldn't expect Christian bands to be in. This makes up for most of the Christian death metal bands, black metal bands, or unblack metal, as they like to call themselves, grindcore bands, slam bands, and any other extreme metal genres that you just wouldn't expect to have Christian lyrics. And this would be bands like Crimson Thorn, Anti-Demon, Sorrow Storm, Symphony of Heaven, Vials of Wrath, Broken Flesh, or older Abated Massive Flesh. So many bands with flesh in the name. But yeah, it's just these super extreme Christian metal bands that you can use to kind of mess with old people at your church. And by old people, I mean, people that are my age. Level 5, the undisputed classics. Now, this is going to be what you get recommended from older Christian metal fans who've been into the scene since the early 1980s. We're talking the OG Christian metal scene that existed before all the hardcore and new metal bands from the 90s came along. So this would be classic bands like Bride, Blood Good,
Take him down. When gently. Hold his head.
Barren Cross,
Imagine you are standing on a stage.
and the king of all 80s Christian metal bands, Stryper. And honestly, I would also put bands like Tourniquet in this category as well, as their first 3 albums are highly regarded by that scene of old school Christian metalheads. And for a lot of these guys, these are the bands that were the end all be all of all Christian metal of all time. And a lot of these guys won't even listen to newer bands unless it's Theocracy. They all love Theocracy. Level 6, the guys who built the temple. These are the bands who built the framework of the Christian metal scene as we know it today. So I'm talking about bands like Living Sacrifice, Mortification, Vengeance Rising, No Innocent Victim, POD, Project 86, Blindside. These bands took modern music, for the time at least, and mixed it with a more positive and spiritually uplifting message. And the result of that was not as polarizing as you would think. In fact, more people were willing to listen to those bands because of how good their music was, but also because of the positivity and the relatability of the message. These are the bands that truly innovated and brought Christian metal to the more popular and recognized state that it is in today. They're also the bands that I kind of grew up with, so I probably have a little bit of a bias there. And level 7, the truly God tier, God inspired Christian metal albums. I've talked about bands only up to this point, but this is where we have to kind of hone in on the specific albums that are what I would call God tier, pun definitely intended. These are like divinely inspired albums. These are lightning in a bottle moments. And I'm talking about albums like X-Toll's Undeceived, Mortification's Scrolls of the Megaloth, Believer's Dimensions, Crimson Moonlight's The Covenant Progress, Living Sacrifices Reborn, Embodiments Embrace the Eternal, Antester's Return of the Black Death, and of course, Striper's To Hell with the Devil. These albums were just absolutely upper crust releases that created legions of lifelong Christian metal fans. Like, these albums are the albums that, honestly, instead of telling people to listen to Demon Hunter and Skillet and TFK, go tell people to listen to these records, because these are the records that, in my opinion, changed Christian metal forever. Thank you guys so much for watching this list. Let me know what your favorite Christian metal bands and albums are, and tell me what levels you think that they belong in based on this stencil. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.